Just a second. Now you are.
Okay, so now we're live, but we're not actually doing our program yet. We're gonna go start the program at 9:03. But we go live a little bit so that people can get alerted to the fact that we are live. And eventually, we're gonna figure out this technology so they don't have to look at us chatting for 5 minutes before the show starts.
We've almost got it figured out. Kyle's working on it.
Yeah, the technology's pretty awesome.
It is. It really is. We'll be able to add a lot of different things as we go forward, even some different segment partitions and things like that that'll be in print. That'll
Yes,
be great.
yeah, Kyle's doing some
Yeah.
really cool stuff with transitions so they don't have to look at our mugs the whole time.
Yes.
So that'll be
Yes.
awesome.
Well,
And, well, we want to say thanks to those of you that are here.
Yes.
There's probably not too many of you yet, but thank you for the feedback. We are aware that we're working with the microphone on an iPhone, and so we're trying our best to project our voices, and we'll stay conscious of that today as well. And hopefully in the next week or two, we're gonna have a really big microphone so that you don't lose our voices as we go through this.
Well, and thanks for being with us. We're going to talk about the fact this is our 4th show, and we've been able to cover facial expression, we've covered networking,
Vocal?
vocal quality, and so we're really thrilled that if you've been with us, and we'll say this again, but we want to say it to you up front here, we're just so thankful that you're tuning in, and we appreciate your questions and suggestions that you've been submitting as well.
Mm-hmm. And we're not going to talk about the book in this show, but we can talk about it right now. We've just approved, close to final approval on the cover design. We're pretty excited about that. The book's at the indexer, so that's a laborious process that takes several weeks to be able to set up that index. And it's still on target for a launch in April.
Yes, and we're thrilled. The cover design was actually done by a Canadian artist who is a brother of Ro, and it looks amazing. He took the theme and he was able to create a piece of art that then he took a picture of, which is now going to be the focus of our cover design. It's really beautiful.
It is really beautiful, and I can't wait to see the actual piece of art
Yes.
once it arrives here in the Tero office. I'm gonna have to push my brother on getting that shipped from Canada down here so we can enjoy the actual art that is the focus of the cover design.
We also were really thrilled. A lot of people pre-read the book. We went out to different people, as authors do, to have them pre-read it, to give their interpretation of how it worked for them, what it meant to them, and so we'll have some of those quotes will be on the cover as well, it was exciting to see that laid out.
It was,
the way it
yeah,
was
we'll use
last
some of the
week.
quotes on the cover of the book. One rather lengthy testimonial on the book actually is forming the preface of the book, and then I think the publisher uses the quotes for various promotional things that they're gonna do.
Yeah, we really appreciate, we had several people willingly give their time to review the book in advance.
So today we're gonna talk about branding,
Yes.
personal and professional branding, and we're very excited at who our guest expert is gonna be.
We're thrilled. Becky Rupiper-Greene, as you'll hear, is going to be with us, and we're thrilled. Becky does so much work at Tero. She teaches almost every class we have, but she is the region's only certified corporate image consultant, and we feel so fortunate. She works with so many of our clients with regards to being able to present their brand in the way that's going to work effectively for them, and so we're just thrilled to have Becky with us.
Are we live? We're ready to go. Okay, well, good morning. I'm Rowena Crosby.
And I'm Deborah Renner, and we're your co-hosts for this show. Thank you so much for joining us for the next 17 minutes, where we look at the invisible tools that are essential for working effectively with others. Ro, we're on our 4th show.
I can't hardly believe it. It's very exciting. We thank those of you who are also on your 4th show of your Invisible Toolbox, and we welcome our new viewers who may be joining us for the first time. In the past 3 episodes, we've taken a look at the impact that our facial expression, vocal quality, and networking has on our career success.
And today we're going to discuss the visual factors and interactions that create our personal and professional brand, and the things that influence that personal brand and that create those positive impressions.
And we're going to bust a commonly held myth, one that you may have holding you back in terms of how you attire yourself when you show up at work. We'll share some useful tips and resources as we always do, and we're looking forward to interviewing our expert of the week, who's a Tero expert.
Yes, we're thrilled about that. You know, Beauty and the Beast came out last week, and people have been going to see it. They're pleased with it. Are you surprised that that remake has been so successful, Ro?
Well, I'm not surprised, and Hollywood never disappoints on some of these remakes. It's a story that isn't a new one. It's got the classic love story, but actually some of the appeal of the movie has to do with other reasons. The story challenges how we form first impressions and whether or not those impressions might change as we get to know someone.
Impressions based on visual image are very quickly formed. They affect us at work and they determine our brand. Our brand really becomes reliant on people's connotations of us, much like the connotations of the beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Indeed. And people naturally associate. We tend to think that attractive people are smarter, friendlier, more honest, and more reliable than their less attractive peers. We associate one positive attribute, attractiveness, with many other good things such as intelligence, although that may not be true. Interviewers, for example, we know who are impressed with a good communicator in an interview may attribute qualities to that candidate that may not exist. When an interviewer is so impressed with the candidate, they tend to overlook some of the negative qualities, rationalizing that the shortcomings can be trained. This is called the halo effect. The other side is something called the horns effect. And that's when someone doesn't make a good first impression. And as a result, they're often thought of poorly in other areas where they may have some strengths. So for example, they may be perceived to be less intelligent or lack motivation. Neither of those things may be true, but that's the impression. Appearances matter. It may not be fair, but appearances matter.
They do. So the beast in Beauty and the Beast might have been suffering from the horns effect. We know it only takes 2 seconds for people to form an impression, so early impressions are really lasting impressions. Creating and managing a personal and professional brand really matters. Let's talk about how not to do it first.
And to talk about how not to do it, we're going to do the segment of the program we call Mythbuster, and we're going to bust a commonly held myth. Today's myth is about the dress code, and should the dress code of your company dictate how you attire yourself for work? For many millennials, one of the appealing characteristics of a lot of organizations is a casual dress code. Actually, that's kind of important to people of other generations as well. So is that working for us? Well, if your goal is to be comfortable, a casual dress code may work. But if your goal is to be taken seriously and be perceived as capable and confident, the dress code may be working against you. So how do we leverage our attire for our personal and professional brand?
Well, Tero's image expert, Becky rupiper-greene, who we're thrilled is here with us today and will interview in a few moments, contends there are 2 things that should drive the decision in terms of how to attire ourselves. Neither one is the dress code. She states that we should visit the ER before we go to our business meeting or before we meet with whomever we're going to meet with. ER is an acronym. The E stands for look like an expert in what you do, and the R stands for relatability, who can relate to what they do, whomever you're meeting with. And so it's those 2 things, expertise and relatability, that are the drivers in determining what we're going to attire ourselves in.
So we should ditch the dress code and instead focus on looking like an expert that others can relate to.
Well, what else do we need to consider with regards to a personal brand? 70% of millennials are said to be more excited about a decision that they've made, that they've been able to consult with their friends on and that their friends agree on. And actually the general population, 48%, are the same way. We like agreement. But a personal and a professional brand, that is an individual consideration. We must create that for ourselves.
You're right about that, Deb. And that's why we can't assume that what's right for someone else might be right for us. In the workplace, people will not assess you as carefully as you assess the choices that you make. Underestimating the power of that 2-second appraisal can cost us in terms of how we're perceived in our professional careers. It can actually sabotage our success when our appearance is not congruent with our skills, abilities, and expertise.
Yes, and we judge ourselves by our good intentions, but others can't see our good intentions, and they first see the visual image that we broadcast to the world, and that plays a huge role in how they judge us and how they perceive our brand.
Absolutely. And now it's time to look at the research underlying our Invisible Tool of the Week.
Well, Frank Abagnale is perhaps the most famous con artist in recent times. His resume includes he was a check forger. He forged over $2.5 million worth of checks in over 26 countries. He was also an imposter. He posed as a lawyer, he posed as a surgeon, he posed as a pilot, he posed as a federal agent, and his story was made famous in a film where Leonardo DiCaprio played him, and it was called Catch Me If You Can. Now, how did Frank Abagnale con all those people? What went into that?
It was impressive, wasn't it? Well, one of the influential factors in forming perceptions is our regard for authority. A title or a uniform automatically evokes authority in those that are perceiving it, and as a result, we will follow the leadership of people who have the title or have the uniform.
So Frank Abagnale knew exactly what uniform to don to be able to do what he needed to do, but what has this got to do with us and our personal and professional brand? We're not con artists.
Hopefully not.
No, you're people of high integrity. We are too. What does this inform us of? Well, it tells us a consistent, positive visual image could act the same way a uniform does in creating the command of respect and also informing that positive brand that people will have of us.
And so what that tells us is don't let your visual image sabotage your career. People see you before they hear you, and we really want to make sure that what they see really communicates that personal and professional brand that we want to convey. The invisible tool that we encourage you to use this week is to determine your desired image. Think about the 2 words that you would like to characterize your personal or professional brand. And in the morning when you're getting ready for work, what is the attire that will help further that brand?
Very important to consider. And to consider how you look or appear, maybe in your headshot out on social media, which leads us to our social media post this week. Those of you who follow Tero on social media know that we post several times a day relevant content with regards to interpersonal skills, and we're going to feature 2 of those posts right now that will be on our sites this week. The first one is an article that talks about how others will manage our impression if we don't. It's a scary thought, isn't it?
It is a scary thought.
In today's work world with increasing diversity and changing standards, how do we individually know how to leverage what we need to leverage to have a consistent, positive brand? We're going to post an HBR article where Professor Laura Morgan Roberts talks about managing our own impression, not leaving it to chance to have others manage it for us because we haven't done that. And so that's going to be on all our platforms today.
And the second social media post that we would like to highlight this week is on persuasion and branding. Dr. Robert Cialdini, a leading researcher on the subject of influence and how people are persuaded and the role that likability has in branding. This is an interview that focuses on marketing, but it holds important considerations for all of us that are concerned with our personal and our professional brand. This interview will be found on all Tero social media platforms on Thursday and allows you to think about how do you want to be perceived in your brand. Well, now we're going to move to the portion of the program where we get to ask an expert. And today we're joined by a Tero expert.
And we're thrilled to be joined by Becky rupiper-greene. Becky, welcome to the show. We're so thrilled that you're here. Hello.
Good to see you, Deb.
Good morning, Becky.
You. Becky is, in addition to being a senior Tero trainer, she is the region's only certified corporate image consultant. We feel so fortunate to have her on our team. She works with our clients both in classes and in executive coaching. on helping them develop their personal brand. Becky, what can we, if we're thinking about marketing and branding, what are the considerations when it comes to our professional image?
You know, marketing, branding are two different things. That's a misconception. Most people associate branding with how you position yourselves out there on social media, but that's actually more about marketing, because marketing is what you say about yourself. And branding is more about what other people are saying about you and how they're perceiving you and really how they're feeling around you about themselves. So they're very different.
That is different.
That's very different. What about companies that have branded themselves? What can we learn from different organizations? We know sometimes they go through rebranding. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Well, whether it's organizationally or individually, the real key is consistency. And there's a familiar brand that we all know is Starbucks, for example. And one of the reasons people seek out a Starbucks, even when they're traveling, is that wherever they are, they know that coffee is going to taste the same. Whether they're in Des Moines, they're in Denver, the Dallas, you're always going to know what to expect, exactly what to expect. And same with individual branding, people want to know what to expect, and they want that consistency. So you talked about your online presence. We want to know that that online presence, and whether you're in an important meeting on Monday morning, or you're entertaining a client on a Friday afternoon, or you're just in the grocery store on Saturday afternoon, people want to know there's consistency in that brand.
That makes a lot of sense. And consistency, there's probably problems if our visual messages do not communicate that consistency. Can you share with us some thoughts on that?
Well, when there's a lack of consistency, again, organizationally or individually, then the trust is going to be gone. And then we also lose some of that authenticity too.
How can we ensure that our messages, because people have a lot of context that they exist in, so it might be their professional context, it might be on the bleachers when they're watching a soccer game, how do we keep ourselves consistent in all the contexts that are in our lives?
Seems like a daunting challenge,
Yes.
doesn't it? Actually, it can be simplified though. You go back to what Ro mentioned about choosing those two words. Those are really your perception words, your branding words, and then those have to be aligned wherever you go with your ABCs, the appearance, your body language, and your communication skills. And if you're aligning those words with the ABCs, then you're always going to be dressed for success.
So it really brings in everything we've talked about in the last
Yes.
3 weeks, because your facial expression, your vocal quality and communication, how you appear when you network, as well as that visual image.
Everywhere you go.
They all work together. You oftentimes share a story, I don't know if you'd be able to share it, of a young woman who was trying to get ready for a prom, and I know this might really appeal to some of the parents out there.
It is
How
that
do we-
season.
How do we help them with the visual image of what they want to communicate?
Yes. Oh, well, and we can have those battles. I have
Yes.
a teenager as well. The challenge was that I was working with a corporate executive who was polishing her own image, but she said, the challenge I'm having is with my teenage daughter when we go shopping, and specifically in this instance, it was shopping for a prom dress. And she said the fitting room has just become this battle, what I want, what she wants. And so I simply asked her, well, what are her perception words? She said, what? Well, you've chosen your perception words as an executive. What are your daughter's words for the prom? And she said, well, I've never thought about that. And so she went home, she asked her daughter, what are your words? She said it went so much more smoothly because they could talk about the words, not the differences in opinions. And we actually got a picture of her daughter in the beautiful prom dress, just glowing. And of course, mother and daughter getting along much better too.
And we had a standard against which to measure that.
Yes, it was about the words.
Well, and leaders could use that too, if they
Absolutely.
have to talk with an
Mhm.
employer.
Go back to the words, not the actual issue.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, I can see we're getting our warning sign that it's time to wrap up. If you missed any portion of this show, or if you want to share it with others, the entire program will be uploaded to Tero's YouTube channel. Please join us next Monday morning at 9:03 Central Time, where we're going to explore the importance of getting the facts and sweating the small stuff.
Ooh, and in the meantime, we would like to get the small stuff and the facts right in terms of what is important to you for future shows. What kind of questions do you have about team interactions, leadership, customer interactions? If you could submit your suggestions and your email ideas to ideas@yourinvisiblettoolbox.com, we'll take that into consideration for future shows. And if you're out on social media sites and want to interact with us there, we would love to interact with you there, and you can submit your ideas and suggestions on any of your favorite platforms. If you're not subscribed to the Tero YouTube channel, you can get the link below, subscribe to the channel, and you'll be alerted to future shows and when we air. And again, we would like to thank Kyle Plummer, our director and cameraman, for his work on this show.
And thank you for joining us today, and that's a wrap.